Hey guys, Matt.
And Mike.
We're doing the IronTrap podcast,
Yep.
and this is one of our video ones. So if you're listening, straight away I'll tell you we do an audio and a video. So this is a video version as well. So if you're listening to this only on audio, this is one that is pretty cool. We'll show some clips from previous videos edited into this. So hop over to YouTube. You can see that. Get the normal stuff out of the way. We do these on Sundays, and we alternate. So we're not hitting people every Sunday with a podcast. We alternate the video ones every other week, but we are doing an audio podcast every week.
Yep.
So if you do the podcast thing, just hit subscribe, and you can follow us and be notified when we do podcasts. But these have been pretty fun. And
also apologize to anyone last Sunday that was looking for the podcast. I realized at 7 o'clock at night that I forgot to upload it. So
we must not have many people listening because, like, when we miss a video, we get like emails and
messages.
All kinds of messages.
Right 7 a.m. My phone's blowing up. I was putting my kids to bed and I was sitting there. I was going, oh wait, it's Sunday. I didn't put the podcast. Sat down real quick and edited it and uploaded it. I was like, whew, totally forgot about that. Sorry.
So we've been doing that. We just got past all the Black Friday stuff.
Yes, thank you to everyone that bought parts and merch. And I shipped 250 packages this week. So it's been a very long week. If I don't see another box or a tape gun for a couple days, I'll be very happy.
So we've been busy with that, but thank you for everybody. Unlike most businesses, we try and be not pushy with the Black Friday stuff. So we talked about it a little bit in the upcoming stuff, but we try not to hit you, like crazy.
Yeah.
We are not like hard sellers with our business. So
one day we'll shoot infomercials for all the videos for Black Friday with explosions and stuff flying across the screen.
But so we did that, and the pre-order shirts is also done.
Yes, I placed the order for them. I'm hoping our shirt guy said he should be able to have them done by the end of next week, but obviously shipping delays for him getting all the materials. No promises, but I'm hoping to have them shipped out before Christmas for sure.
Yeah, so we are excited to have those out. That did pretty well.
Yep.
We did the pre-order thing before, but I don't know if we did as good of a job at like promoting ahead of time. So some of those pre-orders we didn't get as many, and we were kind of like, I don't know if it's worth coming out with new shirts all the time. But so we're gonna continue to do that. Where like if we're gonna do a design, do a pre-order type deal for it. If the shirt does decent, we may order some extras and sell them, but we're not really going to be stocking 15 designs of t-shirts. We don't make hardly any money on merch, so it doesn't make sense for us to keep like a huge aisle of merch up there, because also, like, if you guys probably realize, our other things that we sell are dirty and dusty, so clean clothing does not mix well with like greasy parts, and Mike's shipping both in a day. So if we have like the more merch we have, the more opportunity for things to get wrecked and dirty. So we're just going to keep it to like the Flathead logo shirt, and some designs will come and go. So we're also working on, we have a really cool design, actually pretty excited about it.
Should I put a teaser right here of it? Can I show them or no?
Yeah, sure, why not? So we have a new
quick
design.
flash. You got to pause the video if you really want to see it.
So our Flathead design that's super popular, that design all became from, I have all these old Ford sales booklets and catalogs and ephemera that we sell. So we were going through, the Flathead logo came from an old, like, I forget what it is. It might be like a parts counter catalog from the 40s. And it's got this Flathead on the front of it that's all Art Deco. Our now friend Nick in Australia hit us up and was like, hey, I'm a graphic designer. I'd love to make you guys a t-shirt for this just because I think it's cool.
Yeah.
He did that graciously for free, and then the shirt got really popular. So now we were like thinking the same thing. When we're looking through these books, you start noticing that there's really neat illustrations they did, and then we use that for inspiration. So we don't copy it exactly, but we use it for an inspiration. So we were going through like going through a 50s like dealer parts.
It was for farm implements. It wasn't even the tractor. It was the stuff that went behind the tractor.
Yeah, it was like a catalog for the parts for the farm implements for the Ford division from like, I think it was 49 or 50. And on the back of one of the catalogs, they put these little illustrations that are kind of like to help the parts guy or the salespeople like sell more. So they put some kind of, catch line or whatever. And it was a little like robot type looking guy made out of parts. I'm like, oh, that's super cool. We should do a similar thing. And of course, it's because it's done in the 50s. It's got like stars and little starbursts and whatever off of it. So we were like, oh, that'd be cool. Let's use that for an inspiration. So gave it to Nick. Nick edited some and changed it and tweaked it. Added the IronTrap logo. Of course, took the any Ford logo out of it. And we made our inspired by an old 50s Ford advertisement. So it's got the look and it's really cool. So we're gonna do parts shirts. So a lot of our shirts are more just like IronTrap, like the videos and the stuff. So this is actually going to be like a parts shirt. We're going to have a pocket tee, old school.
There's a lot of old dudes that are rejoicing because we always get messages about pocket tees. So this will be our first pocket tee.
And as I get older, I've been actually...
I need a place to put my Sharpie.
Put my Sharpies in. It's actually pretty handy. So we're going to come out with those. We're going to do the same deal. We'll promote it ahead of time. And like we do a lot of years, I think we're going to do it where it can be pickup or we're going to sell any extras we have at Spring Carlisle. So when we get closer to spring, we'll start promoting that. We'll probably do like a 2-week to a month pre-order. And then we'll,
February, March time frame.
Yeah, so. And then we'll have them for April to deliver them. But we're going to be doing those. Pretty cool. And I'm excited to have like a parts division type shirt, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely.
That's our spiel, what's going on with that. Today's podcast, we were, for the video ones, it seems to be people are enjoying the reminiscing or talking about.
Yeah, more of the storytelling.
So we're going to talk about today. I kind of forgot about this one, but Mike brought it up as a good one. The AA truck that we bought that was like super mint.
Yeah.
It was very, very nice.
And super local, which is...
Super local. If you guys didn't watch that, as always, we put a link to the video that we're discussing. If you'd like to go back and watch the video,
we did 2 or 3 videos on this truck, so they'll all be down below in the video or podcast description. There'll be YouTube links.
But this is a good one where we seem to go all over the country chasing this stuff, and some of our best ones were not close to home. But this one was a pretty fun one and was only 20 minutes, half an hour tops away. And AA truck, and this was pretty early in the channel.
It's like 2018, 2019. It was right around when you got the one we just talked about the other last week, the Chrysler. Yeah, it was right around that same time.
So that one, the channel had been growing, and obviously just locally, people were starting to like notice or talk about, or guys, hey, did you hear about the guy in Boyertown? He's got a YouTube channel and he's finding old cars and working on stuff, and the buzz was spreading. And at that point I still had a day job. So anyways, we started getting started to trickle in where we're starting to get leads or emails. So this was an instance where a local real estate agent just emailed us. He was in one of the local car clubs, but I didn't know him personally. Sure, I'd run into him at car shows and stuff, but he emailed and said, hey, I know about you guys, whatever. I'm doing a property and there is an old truck there. And I saw that you guys, and heard you guys do old Model A's and stuff like that. The family wants to sell it and they need to sell it to sell the property. And it made it sound like it was something they wanted to sell the property fairly quickly. I think I got a couple photos from him.
I think so, yeah.
And straight away, I was like...
Our email, we rarely clean it out from important emails like that. I probably...
Have the original photos?
I'll do some digging and see if I can find the original photos.
Can't remember if it was Facebook or email, but one of the two he contacted. It may have been Facebook originally.
Yeah.
He had sent us a message, but he sent us some photos, and straight away, anytime I get photos and there's like just junk. Stuff, things hanging from nails and, all kinds of neat things... you're like, okay, this is a good one. Like we've mentioned it before, but for me anymore, I don't ever actually get that much satisfaction out of buying a car like off Facebook Marketplace that's sitting in a garage and it's all clean. And, part of what I like to do, even if I'm paying the same price to the family versus the guy that bought it and is flipping it, it's not even the money necessarily. It's all, somewhat the money, of course, but like, I want to be able to pull the stuff where it was for all these years, because part of the experience for me has always been the extraction.
It's like archaeology, like you
Yeah.
talked about. It's like digging for dinosaur bones.
That's the fun part. So when I see a photo where it's stuff that's in a building that's never been touched or, is very untouched for many years, I'm excited. So he said, here's the photos. And it's like, okay. I think he was even saying it was a truck and he didn't know if it was a big truck or a pickup. So, of course, you're getting all excited. I'm like, oh, man, hopefully it's a half-ton truck. It'd be super cool. And so he sent us the photos, and it's a double A. I could tell there was no bed on it. It was just a cab. But you could tell with the wheels and how high it was sitting that it was a double A. So I, of course, said, very interested, blah, blah, blah. And so he arranged a time for us to come see it and the family be there. And I went, and it was like, it just goes to show, like, it's one of those places where I've driven the road that it's on. It's in Limerick, Pennsylvania, which is
really close to the power plant.
Really close to the power plant. It's close to us. It's also one of those areas that in like everywhere in the United States, rural areas have the city and developments have been coming into the more rural areas. So Limerick, growing up for me, was very rural.
Yep.
There wasn't a lot of businesses. There's like a turf farm and there's a golf course. And then it was just businesses and little, houses, a diner, and, typical, hometown America type deal.
Yeah.
Well, Philadelphia and the main line has been coming down closer to us every year. Limerick has been very greatly has been affected by that. And a lot of the old houses and businesses have been torn down, old barns and stuff built. But there's still a lot of these little side roads where the houses are all old. Probably the same people have been living in them for, very long time. They didn't sell out to a development yet. But, like this was one of those little stretches where like right after the stretch of this maybe 10 houses off a main road, there's a huge ass development, big development, all kinds of, and then as you go down that road, there's all these like McMansions that are
Didn't
built.
that back up to that property too?
Yes,
that development?
There's a development that backed right up to it. So this is one of these houses that like there's junk in the backyard and it's a pretty run down, let's be honest. It's a very run down kind of hoarder situation. But because there was a fence there and some trees, you couldn't see. But like when we were unloading the truck, we're like looking over and there's like a nice development, kids riding their bicycles, that type of thing. And we're over here digging through rat shit. And it's like, okay, if you only knew
exactly.
all the nice, shiny, happy people didn't know next door.
Well, on the other side of your white picket fence.
Yeah, but it just goes to show, like when you drive down these roads, there's like these little batches of houses, and a lot of times there's stuff.
I drive Karen nuts every time we drive past like an older house with a big garage. I go, what do you think's in that garage? She's like, there's not early Fords in there. I said, but what if there is? That's a big garage. A lot of early Fords will fit in there.
There might be a Cadillac.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't have to be early Ford.
She hates it. It's so funny. I do it all the time just on purpose.
Yeah, or garage doors open that you didn't notice before. Ooh, what's in there? So this was on that stretch of road, and I went to.
We probably both of us have driven past
it a million times. It's a little cut through actually. That I take to go now that the traffic has gotten so bad in that area. It's a cut through road that you can come off the main road off Ridge.
Yeah.
And you can go around and end up back on Swamp Pike.
Oh, yeah.
Back there. So I've driven it millions of times, throughout my life. And my father used to work at the turf farm, and he worked at the golf course there at Waltz's when I was growing up. So like literally that area, I've grown up in that area. So we're driving past. I'm like, I know right where this is. Like, I'm looking at the address, and we pull up, and I'm like, oh, there's a batch of houses that hasn't been, torn down. And long driveway, and you drive down it, and, it's all, like, kind of overgrown. And you look to your right, and there's a house, and it's just, like, one of these little, I don't know.
It's like a little Cape Cod.
Yeah, Cape Cod house is probably a good way to describe it. And it's just, like, you could see the porch. Like, any of these old estates we do, like, when you drive up and the porch is covered with stuff, newspapers, boxes, old junk. You're like, okay, we're in the right place here. Yep. Like going down this driveway, you're like, I hope I'm pulling up to the right house. And then you like see that, you're like, okay, we're in the right spot. Yeah. So pulling down it, you're like, okay, you can't even see the garage, to be honest. You see the house is set back pretty far, halfway down the driveway, and then all the way in the back of the property, there's a little garage. Actually, it's not that small of a garage.
Those are like a 2-car.
A little bigger, 2-story.
Oh, that's true.
So it was like almost as big as the house, honestly.
Yeah, that's true.
So we drive down it, and in the back's this garage, and the door's open, and I'm like, okay, and you walk in, and it's like, holy crap, like These are much like the mad scientist one, which we'll have to do a podcast on that one eventually.
We got a lot of other places to cover before we get to
Yeah.
that one.
But anybody who watched that video, it was a similar situation where the person was living in the garage. So I guess this was a scenario where I think they were twin brothers or brothers, lived together. I think they never married or whatever. Or maybe one of them did. I don't know. But I think they lived together in the house for a period of time. And then the house became, I don't know if one of them died and then the house became unlivable. So the
house was basically condemned, I think, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it actually had a sticker on it, but it was like, it was bad. So they moved, this gentleman moved into the garage in the upstairs and he made a living quarters. And it wasn't like he moved in there for like a couple weeks. Like, I mean, there was a full on living quarters there, upstairs in the garage. And, you know, when we walked in downstairs, I'll never forget it. There was a pack of,
it was bread or rolls.
I think it was rolls that were like clothes. There was a piece of string or wire across the garage and there was this stuff clothespin to it. And I bet he was drying his clothes on it more than likely when he was washing them or whatever. And there was a pack of rolls that were on there and they were dated from like 10 years before or something. And they weren't moldy. And I was like, that's alarming.
Yes, very alarming.
We're not going to get into any like food conspiracy stuff, but that definitely was a little weird. But yeah, so like, I remember seeing that. I'm like, holy crap. So look at the truck, get in there. It's a double A, 2829. You start looking at it, it's like, holy crap, this thing's really, really solid. The metal was all nice.
Like you mentioned, there was no bed on it, so he was tinkering with it at some point.
He was tinkering with it. I can't remember if it was up on jack stands.
Was that gentleman still alive or did he pass away?
He was alive, but I think health or whatever
he was in a nursing home at this point.
Something had happened where maybe the guy that lived in the building died and the other brother was still alive or something. He moved, the two of them were maybe living there. I can't remember, but they had moved the gentleman
to a nursing home
or with the family or something like that. So there was a family member that was power of attorney. It was like a daughter or something like that and her husband or whatever. And basically the real estate agent kind of pulled me aside and said, look, this is like not a foreclosure, but it's a similar thing where the house has very little value because it's run down and it's filled with junk and, blah, 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 blah. And really the only thing on the property other than the property itself that has any value is this truck. And he said, they're hoping to get some money out that help with costs of stuff. And then we're going to put the house up and try and get rid of it quickly to get them some money. And they understand that the house is as is, selling it so they're not going to get full value. And so he kind of explained to me they want a quick sale. They don't want to deal with 50 different people walking through here. It was also like a lot of these instances, it's a little embarrassing for the family. We try to be as respectful as possible. And you guys may notice in a lot of videos, we try and dance around showing you the reality of the situation. We're not trying to create fake, unlike real TV where they're trying to make a small situation seem
more dramatic.
We actually a lot of times film the other way around, or Mike will edit it. Like sometimes when we're filming when we're like driving home, I'll say to Mike, we can't show that. That thing that we filmed in the moment, we're like, holy shit, that's crazy. Sometimes it won't make the edit because it's like, for respect for the family, we don't want to show like, feces on the ground, like stuff that's like really.
Which we haven't come across yet.
Yeah.
Human feces.
There's been some stuff that's
pretty bad. Yeah.
Damn near that. That's. So we try not. So this was an instance where like the real estate agent's like, it's kind of embarrassing. And in fact, they refused to let me in the house. Almost every estate, I'm able to talk my way into going into the house because I talk about in other podcasts. I used to sell mid-century furniture, used to do vintage clothing. I've been buying and selling my whole life vintage. And I still like going in these hoarder houses because there's old stuff that no one else would deem as valuable, and you find an old pair of jeans or an old shirt or whatever, but they would not let me in. They refused, would not let me in no matter how many times I asked. So I think the house, they were just so embarrassed of the situation. So he said, they're not it wasn't an invitation to like rip them off, but he was saying like they want to do a short sale. They understand that you buy to sell, so you need to, whatever. So went in, looked at it, and was like, holy crap, it's really nice, but it's like missing. And like a lot of these hoarder ones, like the whole back of the frame was covered with junk, and it's like, how can you tell what all's here? The old guy saying everything's there for my truck, but like he took it apart, and there's new parts here, and there's parts missing, and stuff inside, and there's rat's nests or whatever, and mouse nests, and so engine was stuck. It's like, okay, well, engine stuck, and this and that. I don't know what all's there. And they're like, oh, I think the bed is behind the garage. I'm like, really, the bed? Like, I thought maybe it was a grain truck or something.
Yeah.
So he walked all the way around the back, and here there was an original, I think it was a express bed bottom portion.
Which is, for anyone that doesn't know, the express bed is the short bed version of the AA, correct?
Oh, no. There was a flatbed. It was a factory Ford flatbed that had the Ford script in the angle iron. We later found out that this truck was originally... because of the running boards and I think the fenders,
that's right.
One of our viewers actually clued us in. I can't say I knew this ahead of time. Could tell that it was originally an express truck, which is very rare. It's like a big pickup truck, a 3/4 ton pickup truck
with a regular pickup bed, not a flatbed or dump bed. It's just like a regular pickup bed.
So the flatbed was there, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's an original Ford flatbed, and whatever else. So made an offer, and we whatever. I don't even remember if we haggled much. Made an offer, and I think it was just like they needed it gone. They were literally trying to put the house up for sale, like, the day after we pulled the truck out of there, they were going to put the house up for sale with all the junk in it, whatever. So hooked up my trailer, got there, and it was like, again, 30 minutes down the road. So we went there, and we were like, oh man, we'll be done. Typical deal. My typical quote, we'll be done by lunchtime.
Anytime he says that, I MF him the whole time. Like, dude, every time you say that, we leave at like midnight.
Yeah. So we went, and I don't remember the truck being hard to dig out per se.
Getting the garage door open was hard.
Getting the garage, I vaguely remember that.
It was covered with I don't even know, when you said you went there and the garage door was open, I don't know if any of the doors were open because the shrubs were grown all over the front of the garage.
You're right. We opened it afterwards.
You had to go do lawn care and dig like bushes out.
That's right. I do remember that now. Yeah. So when I went, I just went in the side door or whatever. You're right. I forgot about that. And I do remember. And the garage doors were covered with stuff. And it was like we didn't know the last time they were open, and household stuff. And typical deal, I like to go through every box, every piece of whatever, because around the truck, because you don't know if there's a piece in a box and junk got thrown on top of it. So it was very time consuming to go through. We basically told the family, like, we want to go through the whole first floor of the garage, make sure there's no car parts or anything missing, that's in the corners and workbenches. So we went through, and surprisingly, we didn't find much for the truck, like laying around it. It was all just stuff, old clothes and whatever, baby toys, whatever it was, family stuff. And I remember getting the thing like out was kind of a pain, because at that point I didn't have
no winch.
That was still come along days.
You didn't come along at all.
You pushed it on.
You pushed it, yeah.
Because the driveway was a little downhill. Yeah. But we had to get it out of the garage. Oh no, we rolled it out.
Yeah, it rolled really easy, but to get to the point of rolling it out, you had to do all the shrubbery and then get all the crap out in front of it. There was like dressers and stuff stacked in front. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, holy crap.
I wasn't there, but I edited the video, so I remember all this stuff.
See, that stuff's just like a blur.
Yeah.
I remember we went upstairs into the living area, and it was just like, mattress on the floor type deal. And I think we found like old Playboys.
You found his Playboy stash.
Yeah, and I don't know if did we put that in the video?
I don't remember. I might have cut it out.
If not,
I'll put a clip on top of it here, finding it. But I'm pretty sure we showed it. I can't remember now.
Yeah, but we, so we, digging upstairs, we didn't find like anything upstairs. There was old stuff, but again, it was like there wasn't anything that was worthwhile. It was a little awkward too, because the family was embarrassed.
Yeah.
But I know what it was. The fenders were upstairs.
That's right, yeah.
There was fenders, and maybe the hood and some of the sheet metal was upstairs, so we had to go up there. And remember, the family was a little embarrassed. I like, well, I need to look around, because what if there's parts in the living area, which we found many times. And we went up and dug around a little bit, and it was kind of odd.
Yeah. It's funny how these estates go too, with like a guy that has one car. Like the mad scientist, he had 30 of everything for that vehicle.
Yep.
And then this guy with the AA, he had like literally just
Yep.
what came off the truck, no extra, not a ton of reproduction and extra parts for it. It's just the vehicle and what he took off. And then we go into these other estates. It's like you open a box and there's 30 of the same thing. You're like, what? This dude bought every single one he ever came across.
Yeah, and I don't know if this guy, I don't remember the background on this guy, but like he had owned the truck for a really long time, but it wasn't like he was a crazy car collector.
Yeah.
I don't remember how they said he got it. I don't know if it was something through his job. I vaguely remember.
I'll have to look in the video and see if we mentioned it in there.
I think it was something maybe with his job that he got it in trade or bought it from a guy he worked with, but he wasn't like a lifelong car collector. Yeah. I also don't think that the gentleman he had like wasn't a wealthy person, so this was probably his only old car. And the way the family talked about it was like he always wanted to get it going, same old story. But he wasn't going in excessively to Hershey and buying parts and doing all that stuff. So I quickly realized as I was digging through the estate, like this wasn't one of those places. This was whatever we find is what we find, and that's it. But we were digging around upstairs, and it was just like, holy crap, this guy was living in this garage. It was very old garage, not sealed up very well.
Nope.
Definitely living with mice and things like that, but you know, it happens, unfortunately. So, but I remember digging around and we were cutting all those shrubs and stuff out, and around the side of the house there was that old Harley.
It's a Harley dirt bike that was made in Italy, I think.
Yeah, it's like a 70s.
Yeah, 70s Harley dirt bike.
But it was like literally sitting like I didn't see it the first time I was there, and we were cutting all the shrubs. I think it was fall.
No, it was spring, I think.
Spring, okay. So there wasn't a lot of vegetation from memory, and we were cutting shrubs and pushing stuff back. We're like, whoa, what's that old bike? And we looked and we're like, oh, wow, it's an old Harley. I wish it was a Indian or a knucklehead.
A valuable Harley, yeah.
That hasn't happened to me yet.
No.
I wish it did. I'd probably keep it if it did.
Yes.
We found that and we were like rolling around. We're like, oh, this is kind of cool. And the engine, I think, was stuck. I don't remember. But it was like, oh, this is cool. And I bought it for, I don't know. I think I bought it for $100 or something. And I think I sold it for like $150 to a guy. No, like I didn't make like any money on it. It was just, it was there. We wanted to save it. We knew that probably everything on the property was going to get trashed. But we found out, we're like, man, this is pretty cool. Like you never know.
You did own a Harley for a very short period of time.
I did own a Harley. It's pretty cool. Hogs for life. Live to ride, ride to live.
Yeah.
Brother. So we got that out. We got the truck out. It rolled. I do remember now. It rolled surprisingly well down the driveway. It was like, I think once we aired the tires up, it was like it rolled surprisingly easy. And we got it out, got it on the trailer, loaded all the stuff up, and like I said, I was trying to get in the house, and I was kind of like bummed because I my spidey senses were going off that it was
going to be something good.
It was going to be good. I knew there was a lot of stuff, but man, the best vintage clothing comes from these types of places, and it just. So after we got the truck loaded on the trailer, and we were, everybody was helping me carry the parts to put it in the truck and all the stuff we found. Always we go back and do a sweep through the building just to see what all's there. So we found a little bit more stuff. I think there's some ephemera type stuff we found. But there was just like belongings pinned. I never forget that there was stuff pinned on the clothesline, and that bread was there, and there was some other stuff kicking around. And then once we had the garage doors open, you could really see inside, and there was like tools, and so the family was willing to sell stuff out of the garage. So I was digging around a little harder, looking for tools, or I have a bunch of stuff for leading and old files. I found them at estates like this where the guy back in the day, all there was lead. So they got their little kit with files to do body work, back in the day. So I was digging out for that kind of stuff. And I remember I found there was like an oil heater, I think, in the back right corner of the garage. And there was, I don't know if it was hanging or was laying. I think it was laying like face down. And I went up and just like was just feeling up top there. And there was a little white piece of metal sitting on top. I'm like, what the hell? And grabbed and turned it over, and it was an early Atlantic sign that I have hanging in the shop.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
It was an Atlantic.
No, it was Gargoyle.
Gargoyle, yes.
It was that mobile Gargoyle sign.
Early, like a 20s sign.
Yeah.
Porcelain. and it's a small one, like this big, but it was, just it reinforces that if you're ever going to dig or buy a car, especially when it's a place like this, make sure you spend the extra. I know so many of my friends that buy old cars, they run in, they get the car, they want to get their asses home, and they don't spend that extra time to look around. And then you're missing those pieces for the car or whatever, and they're sitting there. Or there's something neat, especially when they're telling you, "Oh, we're clearing everything out of the property." So like, we do multiple sweeps on these properties because a lot of times.
And I'll go through stuff he went through, and he'll go stuff through I went through, because sometimes you just miss stuff because there's so much.
Yeah. So I found that sign, flipped over. I'm like, holy crap! Like out of all the stuff here, I'm gonna probably sell all of it, but I want this sign. So they had no idea where it came from. It was in that garage for forever. Who knows the story? Maybe that garage was an actual garage back in the day, and the house was built in front of it. You don't know what the roads were like in the 20s in that area. It might have been completely different. So maybe that garage, because it was very old, the street could have maybe come out more, and maybe that was a service station. We don't know. Who knows? Or the guy just got it somewhere and he was going to use it for a floorboard or something. I don't know. But it had a little rust in it. But finding that gargoyle signage is very, very desirable.
Yeah.
And I said it a million times, I have a lot of good signs. I'm not a sign guy. Like, I'm actually not that educated on exact values. I just know what looks cool and what I like. And if I find something on a pick like that, I'll buy it. But I almost never sell signs when we go picking. I enjoy that when we do tours and people visit the shops. Like, people are like, holy crap. Well, I'm like, I can almost tell you where I pulled every sign because I physically found it, or at a swap meet found it, whatever. So that one was killer. It was like, holy crap, gargoyle sign.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so we brought it home, and it was like every car I get for the first day or two, week, I was, man, this would be cool. Build a little AA hauler and, and just all excited about it. And then it's like, the engine was stuck. We tried to unstick it, but I didn't try real hard. People were ripping us apart in that video. Do realize sometimes we do videos just to satisfy other people, and we just shot a video and like half-assed tried to free the engine up, and it was like, I'm probably going to sell it anyways.
And then you didn't even put it for sale. Someone emailed about buying it, right?
We had a lot of emails. That truck, that was probably one of the first times on the channel when I started realizing that our viewers were also people that could be customers.
Yeah.
I didn't really, not that we're like actively trying to sell to people, but like in my head, it never clicked before. I was just like, oh, people like watching us fix cars and find them. And it's like, well, wait, some of these people watching might be looking for that car that we're going to sell. So we had like dozens of emails from people because it was an express bed, it was in really good shape. A lot of emails from people that were like, hey, I'm interested in that truck if you're going to sell it, blah, blah, blah. And I think like we do, took everybody's name. We went down the line, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, and got to a guy from Philly area that was actually in the German cars. I think he was in the BMWs and something else. Nice guy, but we talked on the phone or talked through email, and he was in the German cars, but he was looking to get a Model A. He just thought they were neat. He wanted to join the Model A club, and I think he wanted like a AA truck. He wanted a bigger truck, and we started talking, and I told him about it, and I think this is one of these instances where I think we had a guy that offered more.
Oh, yeah.
But he was going to flip it. And he was really super pushy. And the two of these guys kind of at the same time got back to us. And the guy was like super pushy, but I could tell that the guy was playing the game where he was going to show up. He was offering me something on the phone. And then he was to get his foot in the door, and then he was going to show up and offer me half and negotiate it down. The other dude was like, I want to build it. I've been looking for one. The other guy wasn't as close, and he's like, I'm, Conshohocken or something. And he's like, I want to build it. I want to join the Model A club, get into the hobby, blah, blah, blah. And like, he actually wanted to work on it. I'm like, so I ended up selling it to him, and I think his offer was less. But I knew the other guy was going to end up talking me down. That some of the reseller guys...
Such a dickhead tactic. I will kick you off the property if you offer me money and then show up and then offer me less. I'll just go away, leave, get out of here.
People do that quite often. It's a thing. I mean, I think it's funny people do that. That's how I got the DeLorean Roadster.
Yep.
Guy won it on eBay. From what I understand, he showed up through word of mouth. He showed up, and then he offered less than he won it for on eBay. And they were like, well, no, you won the auction. Oh, what's worse than the photos? I'll give you X. And then the family kind of called his bluff, and he left, and then they called me, and I bought the car. So it doesn't always work. I've realized that it does work, and it's a tactic that people have done forever, even in the days of newspaper ads. You call, and I think that's where it came from. Like back in the day when it was just words on paper, and you call a person on the telephone, and they tell you, yeah, the thing's in really good shape now, there's no rust, blah, blah, blah. You show up, and the guy didn't describe it as good. You talk him down.
That's like different when you're putting photos on the internet for someone to physically look at.
And you do like an hour-long phone call, and you say, yes, all the photos, the this, the that, here's all the stuff. Okay, well,
You're just an asshole.
Yeah,
just being an asshole.
Kind of, yeah. So, and it's different if you show up and somebody totally misrepresented, like didn't take photos of the right side of the car and it's hit.
Someone drove it down a wall.
Yeah, I get that. There's also people that sell things on Facebook Marketplace that do that quite often. There's conveniently not a photo of the floorboards, but the rest of the car, and you're like, because the floorboards
they're also assholes.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I sold it to that guy. He came and picked it up, and I think I saw him around a couple of times, and he was like gathering parts and was planning on working on it. And like,
I think he came by our booth at Hershey a couple years ago and introduced himself to me. He was like, "Oh, I bought the AA," and talked a little bit. But
that's one of the coolest things with us been doing this for a while now. So a lot of cars that we've found sold on to the right people, as I would say, that and then they come to us and like, oh yeah, here I'm like we talked about with the Chrysler. The guy stopped and he's like, look, it's painted, it's going back together. Like this guy's gathering parts, he's working on it, and it's cool just to hear how the cars are doing. It's like a child. Like I found it. I want to hear that it does well and goes to the right person.
Goes to the right college and gets a good paying job.
Yeah. Sits in a nice heated garage the rest of its life, and they do well. They do well for themselves. So that was really cool, and that truck was awesome. That was the first time that we ever had a real estate agent call us.
Yeah.
I wish that would happen more often. That would be awesome.
That hasn't happened since, has it?
No.
That was our one and only time.
But that's one that would like. Real estate is one of those businesses I think and I think part of it too is a lot of real estate agents, they're business savvy. So if they go to an estate to help somebody sell a property, they themselves or they have a friend that buys and sells old cars, and they just do the deal themselves.
Yeah.
They're smart enough to know that. But I'm sure if it was a Ferrari in the garage or a 356 Porsche or C1 Corvette, I don't know if I would have got that call.
Definitely not.
I think it's because it was a Model A big truck, wasn't easy to get out. That's part of it too. Like we're known that we will come and get
junk. We're the junk.
I mean, that one wasn't junk. It was nice, but it was like it wasn't a Model A Roadster. I think if it was a nice Model A Roadster, I might not have got the call. He might have bought it or had a friend that he might have called instead. But since it was a project, I think we get the call more often because we will buy projects and we'll put in a little bit of work to make it palatable for somebody to sell it. This instance, we didn't have to. The guy, we had enough people that were interested. It sold, but that one it was fun to get that and get it home, and that was probably one of the closest ones.
Yeah,
I think the closest one I ever pulled out was the split window VW bus before the channel.
Oh yeah, that
was like literally 5 miles from the house.
Yeah,
from my old house. But
trying to think, that's probably the closest.
I can't think of any other ones that were like I physically bought and pulled out that were much closer than that.
There's a closer estate, but you didn't get any cars there. Where you got the Riley.
Yeah, I didn't buy any cars there. I missed that car. The one car there was one of my ones that got away. But yeah, I don't think of any. I bought when I was younger. Doing German cars, I bought Volkswagens and Audis and stuff that were
blocks away,
5 miles away or 10 miles away or whatever. But so that was probably the best local down the street find. I don't know why I always have to go far to find stuff.
Fly all the way across the country.
Yeah, to get. I mean, we went to Milwaukee
and bought 2 AAs.
You bought one AA and a half ton and a bunch of parts.
Yeah.
And it was like I got the same stuff right down the street almost, but
we didn't get the same amount of stuff though.
That's true. We got a lot of neat stuff.
Yeah.
We're still selling some of that stuff.
A little bit, yes. We're going through that palette of not fun smalls at the moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of trinkety type doodads. But so yeah, that was a fun one. That's our little bit of storytelling. And if you like mentioned, if you haven't watched that video, it's a pretty fun one.
Yeah.
Give it a watch. We'll have some links down below of going through it and all that stuff. But definitely, if you don't want to watch all the videos, watch the one of extracting. It's pretty neat. It's one of those ones. It's like that's real life. We always say we don't fake anything when we walk into these estates. It's just as we see it. The only thing we might do is not show some of the really graphic or embarrassing or whatever stuff. So,
and if there's any videos we've done in the past that you'd like us to talk about, like we might have missed one further back that we didn't talk about. If there's any finds or trips or adventures you'd like us to talk about, send us an email or leave a comment. It's always we have stories on every trip we've ever gone on. So.
Yeah, and I even have some stories. I think if we continue on, like when I was at Eastwood, I was able to do a lot of really neat stuff that never, ever made it into any videos or coverage. Like for instance, with Gene, I worked a deal to debut the Desert Sunset, I think is the name of the car. The two Japanese brothers had Gene build. It was a 51 or 2 Chevy, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Full custom. Probably one of the last cars that Gene fully built. There was other stuff that he painted a car, but like that was one of the last cars that I think he kind of did all his tricks and stuff on. But that was like one that I debuted it. I worked a deal to debut it in the Eastwood booth. That was like a win for everybody. Eastwood was psyched.
It was at SEMA, right?
At SEMA, but the people at Eastwood didn't. Well, we won't get into it. They didn't realize how big a Chevy was and how big our booth was, so it took up the whole fucking booth. They were like, "Well, how are we gonna do anything?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it's the."
Where's everyone gonna stand in the aisle?
I don't give a shit. It's Winfield's car.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one day.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of good ones. So if you guys have any of those type of things that you have questions about or like us to BS about, we'd love to do it. It's a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys enjoy listening to them. And until then, next one will be audio only next week. So check it out. So thank you guys for following along. Appreciate it. Catch you later.
See you.